I have always depended on the kindness of strangers. A Streetcar Named Desire wasn't just a movie adaptation, it was a battlefield where acting styles collided, censors wielded their scissors, and one performance changed Hollywood forever. Behind those sultry New Orleans sets and steamy performances lay production chaos that nearly derailed the film. Vivien Leigh's mental breakdown, Marlon Brando's revolutionary acting terrorizing his co-stars, censors butchering Tennessee Williams's masterpiece, a typewriter that birthed cinema history, and a streetcar that didn't even exist when they filmed it. Here are 20 weird facts about A Streetcar Named Desire that will shatter everything you thought you knew about this landmark film. But stick around for the bonus fact. It involves a secret so shocking that it remained hidden for decades. Let's dive into the madness behind the magic. The real streetcar didn't exist during filming. The Desire streetcar line that gives the film its iconic title had actually ceased operation in 1948, months before the movie was shot in 1950. What audiences didn't know was that the production team had to get special permission from New Orleans authorities to bring a retired streetcar out of mothballs just for filming. One of the Desire cars was recalled from retirement by then Mayor Morrison and New Orleans Public Service for the shooting of the opening scene. The streetcar used, number 922, still runs today on New Orleans' St. Charles Avenue. Charles Line, a ghost from a route that had already vanished when Vivien Leigh stepped aboard for her fateful journey to Elysian Fields. Tennessee Williams wrote it on a typewriter that still exists. Tennessee Williams gave his Remington typewriter to his close friend Maria Britneva, later Lady Saint. Just, in 1951, and according to Saint Just, this is the typewriter on which he wrote A Streetcar Named Desire. The keys that hammered out Stanley's brutality and Blanche's poetry are preserved at the historic New Orleans collection. Williams pounded those keys on a long refectory table in his St. Peter Street apartment, where he could hear the clatter of the actual Desire streetcar rumbling down Royal Street. Every brutal truth of the play was born from the rhythm of those typewriter keys echoing the streetcar's own mechanical heartbeat through the French Quarter. The original title was The Poker Night. As early as January 1947, Williams was referring to a manuscript that he was working on as The Poker Night. When his literary agent Audrey Wood saw the manuscript, she knew she had a hit, but she did not like the title, thinking The Poker Night sounded too much like a Western novel. Before Wood sent the manuscript to be typed by her staff, she crossed out the title The Poker Night and wrote in the more poetic A Streetcar Named Desire. That single editorial decision transformed what could have been dismissed as a cowboy story into one of literature's most haunting titles. The poker game remained central to the story, but the streetcar became its soul. Vivien Leigh wasn't the first choice. She was the last resort. Kazan intended for Jessica Tandy, who won a Tony for her portrayal of Blanche, to also reprise her role on film, but producer Charles K. Feldman insisted on casting an actress with more box office appeal. The role was offered to both Bette Davis and Olivia de Havilland, who both declined. Only after two major stars rejected the role did Vivien Leigh, who had already played Blanche in Streetcar's London production, directed by then-husband Laurence Olivier, eventually get cast. What seemed like third-choice casting became the performance of a lifetime. Sometimes the gods of cinema know exactly what they're doing. The apartment set was designed to drive you insane. The Kowalski apartment was designed to gradually appear smaller over the course of the film in order to reflect tension between the characters. Not content with just psychological claustrophobia, the production designers created physical claustrophobia. As tensions escalated between Stanley and Blanche, the walls literally closed in on audiences. Aside from the opening and closing scenes, which were shot on location in New Orleans, A Streetcar Named Desire was filmed entirely on sound stages at the Warner Brothers studios in Burbank, California. The The French Quarter atmosphere was pure Hollywood magic, but the suffocating apartment walls were terrifyingly real. Marlon Brando almost didn't show up for his audition. When a week went by and Kazan hadn't heard anything, he phoned Williams only to learn that Brando had never shown up. At that moment, Marlon was hitchhiking to Provincetown. The future icon of American cinema was wandering the highways while his destiny waited. When he arrived, Williams and his friends were sitting in the dark, occasionally getting up to pee in the woods. A fuse had blown, the toilet was broken, and the house was full of artists who had no idea how to fix either. Marlon quickly repaired both toilet and fuse, wowing the assembled guests. Brando won the role not with his acting, but with his plumbing skills. Brando's co-stars called him an impossible psychopathic bastard. Brando refused to abide by one of the basic demands of professionalism in theater, that you must freeze your performance so that it remains close to identical night after night. While Jessica Tandy delivered the same brilliant performance each evening on Broadway, Brando reinvented Stanley Knightley. Audiences could feel this. They were drawn to him and would stay with him even as Stanley was revealed to be a wife-beater and a rapist. His method madness made him magnetic, but it drove his fellow actors to the edge of sanity. Professional theater demanded consistency. Brando demanded truth, even if it destroyed everyone around him. The film's most famous scene was heavily censored. The scene in which Blanche and Stanley first meet was edited a bit to take out some of the sexual tension that both had towards each other when the film was first released in 1951. In 1993, this footage was restored in the original director's version of the film, but that was just the beginning. Breen outlined three major problems in translating Williams' play to film: the homosexuality of Alan Gray, Blanche's ex-husband, Blanche's perceived nymphomania, and the rape scene at the end of the play. The censors didn't just trim scenes, they performed surgery on the soul of Williams' masterpiece. Tennessee Williams lived next to the real streetcar while writing. Williams lived in this apartment at 632 and a half Street, Peter Street, while writing A Streetcar Named Desire, where he could hear the clatter of the Desire streetcar as it rumbled down Royal Street. The mechanical rhythm of the streetcar became the heartbeat of his most famous play. The Desire streetcar line, which served the shopping areas along Royal and Canal Streets and the nightclubs on Bourbon Street, derived its name from its terminus on Desire Street in the Ninth Ward. Williams wasn't just writing about desire, he was living surrounded by its constant clattering reminder rolling past his window. 3 minutes of lost footage changed everything. 3 minutes of never-before-seen footage have been incorporated back into the film in 1993. Those 3 minutes weren't just deleted scenes, they were the film's stolen heart. The music becomes more seductive, and in close-ups we see that Stella is obviously enjoying walking provocatively, slowly down the stairs to Stanley. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to dive deeper into the madness that was almost lost forever, and the stories get even wilder from here. Vivien Leigh's performance nearly destroyed her mental health. Leigh had begun to dissolve mentally and fray at the end physically, according to Brando, and in 1953, while filming Elephant Walk, Leigh suffered a breakdown and was rushed back to England. Regarding Blanche, Leigh was quoted as saying, "She is a tragic figure, and I understand her. But playing her tipped me into madness." The line between actress and character blurred until Leigh couldn't find her way back. On a subsequent film set, Leigh once refused to come out of her dressing room and began shouting some of Blanche's lines, after which she was taken to a psychiatric hospital. Method acting demanded truth, but for Leigh, the truth was unbearable. Marlon Brando created modern movie stardom in a torn t-shirt. Marlon Brando is often displayed shirtless in one of the first occurrences for a Hollywood movie. Prior to 1951, almost all actors were movie stars. Cary Grant, Humphrey Bogart. They weren't particularly great actors. They were stars, carrying films with their big screen charisma. Brando shattered that model. His focus always appears to be on completing any number of minute tasks that one would expect Stanley to do in reality, with the violence and additional something that lies beyond his conscious control. He wasn't performing glamour, he was embodying raw, sweaty humanity. The rape scene was almost completely eliminated. The censors also wanted the rape scene cut out completely and thus encouraged its removal in the 1951 film adaptation. Williams refused to see his work destroyed and stripped of meaning. Williams wrote, "The rape of Blanche by Stanley is a pivotal, integral truth in the play, without which the play loses its meaning, which is the ravishment of the tender, the sensitive, the delicate by the savage and brutal forces in modern society." The scene involving Stanley raping Blanche is cut short in the film, instead ending dramatically with Blanche smashing the mirror with the broken bottle. What remained was suggestion, shadow, and broken glass. The film's ending was completely rewritten to appease censors. In the play, the self-deceiving Stella remains with Stanley, despite Blanche's claims that he had raped her. But in the film, she takes her newborn baby and leaves him. Realizing that Blanche had told her the truth, Stella takes her baby upstairs to the Hubbles' apartment, determined to leave Stanley. The production code demanded that criminals be punished, so Stanley couldn't win. But Williams' original ending was far more brutal. Stella's return to Stanley, despite knowing the truth, revealed the hopeless cycle of abuse and denial. The censors created justice, but destroyed the play's devastating honesty. Tennessee Williams' turbulent love affair inspired Stanley's character. Williams's lover and companion during this period was New Orleanian Pancho Rodriguez I. Gonzalez, who lived with Williams at 632.5 St. Peter Street during the writing of Streetcar. His relationship with Williams was troubled and often erupted into violent verbal confrontations. Pancho later accused Williams of purposely pushing his buttons to see how he would react, as if he was studying Pancho's behavior for inspiration. The intense, passionate tone of Streetcar likely reflects their tumultuous relationship. Williams wasn't just writing about toxic masculinity, he was living with it, fighting it, and transforming it into art. The movie set, a historic Oscar record. The film won Best Supporting Actor, Malden, Best Supporting Actress, Hunter, and Best Art Direction, making it the first film to win in 3 of the acting categories. This wasn't just critical acclaim, it was a seismic shift in Hollywood recognition, a feat subsequently matched by Network in 1976 and Everything Everywhere All at Once in 2022. For decades, only 2 other films have achieved this milestone. Streetcar didn't just win awards, it redefined what cinematic excellence looked like. Stella Adler's teaching method created a monster and a genius. Brando's teacher, Stella Adler, stressed that the choices made by the actor should seek to command as much attention and stimulate as much interest from the audience as possible. Brando credits teacher Stella Adler, as well as Kazan, with teaching him about acting, and hated being called a method actor as he felt it associated him with teacher Lee Strasberg, from whom he said he learned nothing. Adler's technique created an actor so compelling that even though his character was a wife-beater and rapist, audiences stayed with him. Method acting wasn't supposed to make monsters sympathetic, but Brando's magnetic brutality changed everything. The production used a revolutionary shrinking room effect. The Kowalski apartment was designed to gradually appear smaller over the course of the film in order to reflect tension between the characters. This wasn't just set design, it was psychological warfare against the audience. The walls literally closed in as Blanche's sanity crumbled and Stanley's dominance grew. Kazan understood that physical space could express emotional truth. Every scene made the apartment more suffocating, until viewers felt trapped inside Blanche's nightmare. The claustrophobia wasn't just in the script, it was built into every beam and board. Akira Kurosawa called it one of his 100 favorite films. The Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa cited this movie as one of his 100 favorite films. The master of samurai epics and sweeping landscapes found inspiration in this claustrophobic apartment drama. Kurosawa understood that great cinema transcends cultural boundaries. Stanley's brutality spoke a universal language that reached from the French Quarter to feudal Japan. Streetcar was quickly translated and adapted for non-US audiences, and its universal themes immediately resonated with readers and viewers throughout the world. Within 2 years, major productions were staged in Havana, Mexico City, Rome, London, and Paris. The film launched method acting into Hollywood history. The first major instance of method acting on film, Marlon Brando's turn as Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire, may just be the single most influential performance in film history. This performance changed cinema. Film acting is usually divided into 2 phases, before and after Marlon Brando. Every mumbling rebel, every dangerous anti-hero, every actor who chose truth over glamour can trace their DNA back to Brando's Stanley. Brando's Stanley is always covered in sweat, oil, grease, any available slime. There's a danger to his presence, an unpredictable violence that seems genuinely responsive to his surroundings. Hollywood had never seen anything like it. Bonus fact: some scholars suspect the character of Pablo Gonzalez is patterned after Pancho, while others see shades of Pancho in Stanley himself. But here's the secret that remained buried for decades. Williams had completed the work almost a year prior, on March 16, 1946, but continued developing it during his turbulent relationship with Pancho Rodriguez y Gonzalez. The violent lover who inspired Stanley was literally living in the apartment where Williams typed the final drafts. Every fight, every passionate reconciliation, every moment of tenderness and terror was happening in real time as Williams crafted his masterpiece. The audience was watching Williams' actual life transformed into art, and they never knew it. A Streetcar Named Desire wasn't just adapted from stage to screen. It was a collision between old Hollywood glamour and raw method truth that changed movies forever. From Williams' typewriter in a French Quarter apartment to Brando's revolutionary performance, every element conspired to create cinema history. The censors tried to tame it, but its power remained unbroken. What other classic films hide production secrets this wild? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories that reveal the madness behind the magic. Because sometimes the truth is stranger than any streetcar named Desire.